When she was 16 years old, Annalise Michaels started eating her own hands and drinking her own urine while suffering from seizures and delusions. But her devout Christian family denied medical reasoning and instead blamed the devil. She underwent 67 exorcisms and weighed less than 70 pounds at the time of her negligent death. If you're close enough to a nuclear blast, you'll die with no pain because the explosion will kill you faster than your brain can detect pain. This eerie 1986 Twin Towers advertisement speaks for itself. In 1989, a Los Angeles woman received a phone call from her brother-in-law saying that her ex-husband was on his way to kill her. She dialed 911 but was told nothing could be done unless he showed up at her house. Within 15 minutes, he arrived, killing her and 4 other women who were celebrating her 27th birthday. When a woman with breast implants is cremated, the implants will melt into a goo. It then drips to the bottom of the furnace and must be cleaned up once it is cooled. A South African politician used to love his Mercedes so much that his last wish was to be buried while sitting in it. A man was once so angry about losing a knife fight in CSGO that he spent 6 months tracking down his opponent and stabbed him in real life. If you had smallpox scars in the 18th century, you were more likely to get hired. The scars prove that you already had smallpox and couldn't pass it on to your employers. The symptoms of schizophrenia are shaped by culture. Americans with schizophrenia tend to be more paranoid and experience harsher voices and hallucinations. In India and Africa, schizophrenic people tend to hear voices that are more playful and positive. This is a World War II photo of a Japanese boy waiting for his turn to cremate his dead baby brother in Nagasaki. Photographer Joe O'Donnell said the boy was biting his lips so hard to avoid crying that it was bleeding. If your lungs were completely opened up and laid flat, they would cover the entire size of a tennis court. When the mummy of Ramses II was transported in 1974, it was issued an Egyptian passport that listed his occupation as deceased king. This 1955 device allowed the user to smoke an entire pack of cigarettes at once. Alzheimer's disease doesn't affect emotional memory as strongly as informational memory. As a result, Alzheimer's patients who are told bad news will often forget the news but will remain sad and have no idea why. The singer of Peanut Butter Jelly Time died after an 11-hour standoff with police in 2002. During the ordeal, his brother-in-law Snoop Dogg attempted to calm him down and convince him to surrender. Your intestines know how to get back in the right place. When performing abdominal surgery and the intestines need to be moved, the doctor will simply stuff them back in. There's a condition called Ondine's curse which causes sufferers to die if they fall asleep. The only treatment is for patients to wear a ventilator every time they sleep. In 2001, a man donated his kidney to his wife who was suffering from renal failure. 8 years later, when his wife filed for divorce, he demanded her to return the kidney or pay over $1 million. In 2006, the Miami Hurricanes football team gathered in prayer for their teammate Brian Pata, who had been shot and killed. 15 years later, his teammate Rashawn Jones has been charged with his murder. This is why you should never smash someone's face into a birthday cake without knowing what's inside of it. A Florida lifeguard was fired for saving someone who was drowning because he went outside of his designated area. The executioner from the infamous Vietnam War photo opened a pizza joint in Virginia after the war. When elephants lose a mate, they sometimes refuse to eat and will lie down and shed tears until they starve to death. They're the only animals known to die as a result of heartbreak. Arnold Schwarzenegger has said in many interviews that O.J. Simpson was originally casted to play the Terminator. The main reason he wasn't is that James Cameron didn't think O.J. would be believable as a killer. This is a rare photograph of Ted Bundy having fun with kids in his neighborhood. It serves as a stark reminder of how easily a monstrous person can blend in with society. You can bite off your own finger as easily as you can bite off a carrot, but your brain prevents it. In 2002, a Chechen terrorist attack in a Moscow theater left 130 people dead, but only one of them was killed by terrorists. The other 129 were killed by Russian special forces trying to rescue them. Arizona man Balbir Singh Sadi was a Sikh who became the victim of a hate crime. He was killed 4 days after 9/11 when a Boeing employee wanted to retaliate for the attacks on the World Trade Center. Sadi is listed on the Arizona State Memorial as a victim of 9/11. If you could harvest every organ and chemical in the human body, you would make around $45 million. This is a 1999 photo of Tom Klebold helping his son Dylan get ready for the Columbine prom. Little did he know, his son would help kill 13 people in the school just 3 days later. In 2015, sex worker Heather Saul shot and killed a man after grabbing his gun while he was trying to rape her. When police arrived to investigate, they found a massive kill kit in the dead man's car. They would later credit Heather with stopping an active serial killer. The well-endowed man behind this legendary image is none other than Wardy Joubert III. He was a football coach and preacher who sadly died in 2016 from a heart attack at the age of 45. When a photojournalist took this picture of a little girl in Syria, she raised her arms in surrender because she thought the camera was a gun. In 2011, a Pakistani woman was sentenced to life in prison for killing and cooking her husband because he wanted a physical relationship with their daughter. Ignaz Semmelweis was the doctor who discovered that washing your hands prevents the spread of many diseases. But since this went against the popular medical opinion of his time, he was committed to a mental asylum where he was beaten so badly that he died of gangrene from the wounds. Just 2 years after filming Ferris Bueller, Matthew Broderick killed 2 women while driving on the wrong side of the road in Ireland. He said he had no recollection of the incident and got off with a $175 fine. A male gorilla named Michael learned sign language and once used it to describe his mother being shot and killed by poachers. 2 years ago, a distress message was found in a can of sardines saying, "We are Sudanese laborers enslaved by this company." An investigation was opened by Egyptian authorities, but nothing ever came of it. Genghis Khan would marry off one of his daughters to the king of an allied nation and then assign his new son-in-law to military duty. As Khan expected, most of these son-in-laws would die in combat, giving his daughters complete control over these nations. While Keanu Reeves was filming The Matrix, his daughter was stillborn at 8 months. The tragedy caused he and his girlfriend to break up shortly before she was killed in a car crash. Since then, he has donated most of his earnings from movies and has avoided serious relationships and having kids. In the 1500s, Mapuche warrior Galvarino had both his hands cut off as punishment for defying the Spanish. He returned home, raised an army, and fought the Spanish with blades tied to the stubs of his hands. Khalif Browder was imprisoned at Rikers Island for 3 years without a trial after allegedly stealing a backpack. He spent 730 days alone in solitary confinement whilst awaiting his trial. He was finally released in 2013 after his innocence was proven, but he took his own life just 2 years later. In 2011, a 17-year-old Chinese boy sold his kidney on the black market so that he could buy the new iPhone and iPad. 8 years later, the man's other kidney failed and now he's bedridden for life. The men in white are the surviving members of the original San Francisco Gay Men's Choir. The rest represent those who were lost to AIDS. American Airlines assured a blind woman that they would help her off the plane after the other passengers had gotten off. They then proceeded to forget about her and locked the plane while she was still inside. In 2013, a Clemson student ran an experiment to help turtles safely cross roads. So he placed a fake turtle in the road to observe driver behavior and accidentally discovered something disturbing. He found that 6% of people deliberately went out of their way to hit the turtle. In the 1960s, Michael Jackson's father Joseph wanted to teach his kids a lesson about leaving the windows open at night. So one night when little Michael was asleep, his father climbed through his window wearing a mask and screamed at him. From that point on, Michael would have recurring nightmares about being kidnapped from his bedroom. According to a survey, more than half of all commercial pilots have fallen asleep during a flight. 29% of these pilots claim they've woken up before and seen the co-pilot asleep as well. In 2010, a Polish man wanted doctors to remove a years-long cyst on the back of his head. Upon further examination, doctors found that the cyst was actually a .22 caliber bullet lodged in his scalp. He hadn't noticed it because he was drunk at the party where he was likely shot 5 years earlier. In 2001, the FBI warned Russell Crowe that Al-Qaeda was planning to kidnap him as part of a cultural destabilization plot. For 2 years, the FBI publicly guarded Crowe and refused to give him any details on the threat. Medical mistakes kill over 250,000 Americans each year. If they were a disease, they'd be the third leading cause of death in the U.S. behind cancer and heart disease. Jim Creighton was the first baseball superstar according to historians. In 1862, he swung so hard into a home run that he ruptured his bladder and died. Titanic designer Thomas Andrews was on board the ship when it sank. His original design included more safety features such as watertight compartments and twice as many lifeboats. But his ideas were rejected since they'd make the boat appear less attractive. He spent his last moments trying to evacuate passengers and his body was never recovered. A former FBI agent has claimed that Tupac's boss Suge Knight financed the murder of Biggie in 1997. The intended target was actually Biggie's boss Sean P. Diddy Combs, who was in the car in front of Biggie at the time. In 2015, Airbnb held a contest where the winner got to spend the night in the Paris catacombs, which hold the remains of 6 million people. In 1915, the U.S. Postal Service banned the mailing of people after a 4-year-old girl was sent across the state of Idaho by her parents. A man whose headaches were so painful they made him vomit has finally found the source of his problem. A tapeworm has been lodged in his brain for 10 years after eating undercooked pork in Mexico. Through her grandmother Mary, Queen Elizabeth is a direct descendant of Vlad the Impaler. This technically makes Prince Charles the heir to Dracula's bloodline. The urine of a diabetic contains so much sugar that it can be purified and made into a high-end single malt whiskey. Rabies is such a deadly disease that you're more likely to survive being shot in the head. Only 14 people in recorded medical history have ever survived rabies, and all of them suffered permanent brain damage. There are tiny bugs closely related to spiders living in the pores of your face, which crawl onto your face to mate while you're sleeping. In 2006, a team of scientists in Iceland were freezing clams to study the effects of climate change. They ended up accidentally killing the oldest known animal in the world, a 507-year-old ocean quahog clam named Ming. When North Korea was battling food shortages last year, Kim Jong-un ordered his citizens to give up their dogs. Authorities went door to door forcefully confiscating all canines, which were then sold to meat markets to be eaten. This is the world's heaviest woman in 1922 as compared to the world's heaviest person today. A Japanese ice rink once put 5,000 dead fish in their ice so that their customers could skate over a frozen ocean. The attraction was closed immediately after public outrage. An Iranian woman underwent 50 surgeries and dropped to 90 pounds in a catastrophic attempt to look like Angelina Jolie. While filming The Wizard of Oz, 16-year-old Judy Garland was put on quite the extreme diet. It consisted of chicken soup, coffee, and roughly 80 cigarettes per day. Oh, and check out my Insta, it's active again.